I had a little bit of an issue with my live stream tonight, and so I thank you all for your patience. I actually had to, I had a live stream set up. Um, I had a live stream set up for 8:30 p.m. and so anyway, so let me just give you the quick overview. I had a live stream set up for 8:30 p.m. and there was something wrong with the way the live stream was set up. There was some kind of a glitch, perhaps on my end, perhaps I pressed the wrong button, and so I had to basically cancel that live stream and restart again. And so that's why I'm starting this live stream at 8:40 p.m. So I lost about 10 minutes in the process. And I believe that there were a few folks who were waiting for that live stream. So I'm sorry for any confusion. Okay, so my friend Terry is here. She writes, "I was just getting ready to check on you." Well, thank you, Terry. Thank you for um, you know um, for understanding. Thank you for thinking about me and the delay. And yeah, so anyway, I don't know. I mean, we live in this day and age of technology, right? And I am a millennial, so I grew up, uh, you know, uh, seeing the evolution of technology. Um, Terry, worrying about you. So Terry, I'm just thinking that you were probably worried why I wasn't starting on time. I'm pretty good about starting my live stream on time, right? And so I'm assuming my friend Terry worried about me when there was a delay. So anyway, Badger Den, welcome back. Badger Den writes greetings, Anam. Well, thank you for being here. So anyway, I was in the mood to get started and to talk about Biden's State of the Union and my reaction. And guess what I started this live stream with? I started talking about the technical glitch, right? The technical glitch. So anyway, I, I have a pretty good understanding of cell phones and tablets and computers, but I don't know. In the haste and hurry of life, I think I pressed the wrong button, and then YouTube was showing me a different prompt, and I was very confused. And I tried to fix it, and then I realized, well, I can't really fix it. It's probably going to take a while. So instead, let me just cancel the live stream and start again. So instead of 8:30, I'm starting this live stream at 8:40. So thank you for understanding, for your patience. Uh, all right, my friends. Biden's speech. How many of you watched President Joe Biden's State of the Union speech last night? Terry, did you watch? Did you watch the speech? Badger Den, what about you? Did you see the State of the Union address yesterday? Here's what I think. Okay, and people can disagree with me. Ideally, a state of the union speech should start with a discussion of domestic issues. Okay, domestic issues, issues that matter to people, issues that matter to everyday Americans, issues that everyday Americans are thinking about, right? So in the case of Joe Biden's State of the Union speech, it started with a discussion of Ukraine. He went straight into foreign policy. He starts his speech at in Washington at the U.S. Capitol. Everyone's there, all members of Congress. The world is watching, right? And this is an opportunity. This was an opportunity for Joe Biden to show that he cares about the American people. Okay, which his policies say something else. I mean, his administration's policies have been devastating for the American people, but it was an opportunity for Joe Biden to do some repairs, to fix some issues. So he could have started his speech by talking about the issues that everyday Americans are facing. Gas prices, inflation, economy, all the other problems that we're facing. Instead, he starts talking about Ukraine on the other side of the world. I mean that tells you that his administration is not on the right track. He starts talking about Ukraine. I mean, fine, if he wants to talk about Ukraine, he can. But why should Ukraine be the very first thing that he talks about? Why? What about inflation? What about gas prices? What about crime? What about illegal immigration problems? He starts talking about Ukraine. Laura Floyd, welcome. Good evening. Glad to see you're here. Thank you so much for being here. My friends, as you're joining, as I always say, I repeat this during every live stream, as you are joining, please write something in the chat window, like Terry writes her comments and messages, Badger Den writes his comments and messages, Laura just wish me good evening. So great to see you here, Laura, Terry, and Badger Den. So others who are here, please write something so that I know who's here. I would appreciate that. So as I was saying, my friends, Joe Biden's State of the Union address starts with Ukraine. I mean, this is America, my friends. This is the United States. This is the United States. And so, the American people, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of political ideology, people tune in and they watch the president's State of the Union, whoever the president may be, Republican, Democrat. People watch the State of the Union because it's important. And Joe Biden started his speech talking about Ukraine. I mean, foreign policy should be discussed much later in the speech. That's what I think. You start with your home, then you branch out and discuss what's happening around the world. Also, one of the biggest mistakes that Joe Biden made during his speech yesterday was that he seemed to mention Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley. That's not the name. That is not the name. That's not the name of the Georgia student who was killed. It's Laken Riley. Laken Riley, not Lincoln Riley. And this is not a small mistake. This is not a small mistake. This young woman lost her life, and an illegal immigrant has been arrested in the case. Many Americans are being hurt. Communities are being disrupted because of illegal immigration. Communities are becoming less safe because of illegal immigration. And Joe Biden could not even say the name properly. It's Laken Riley, the young woman who died. A tragic death, and an illegal immigrant has been arrested in that case. It's Laken Riley, not Lincoln Riley. It's Laken Riley. And so there are serious questions about Joe Biden's fitness for office. He made a major error during his speech. He said Lincoln Riley instead of Laken Riley. How could he do that? Let me look at the chat window here. I see some comments. Terry writes about shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is a huge problem. And let's see some more comments here. Badgerden writes, say her name. Say her name. Absolutely. A tragic death. And Laken Riley's name has to be mentioned. She lost her life. And an illegal immigrant has been arrested in the case. And Joe Biden called her Lincoln Riley. How could he do that? And so there are serious questions about Joe Biden's fitness for office. And the fact that he mispronounced the name of Laken Riley raises further questions about whether Joe Biden is fit for office. And let me tell you something else, my friends. At various points during the speech, Joe Biden referred to his predecessor, meaning Donald Trump. Terry writes, Joe Biden went off script. He did. He did go off script. He did go off script. And so, I'm not going to comment on whether it was a good thing for him or not, but he did go off script. And if you're interested, I think different news outlets, different YouTube channels have collage of the important parts of the speech and the moments when he went off script. So you can obviously view that. Mike Johnson. Okay, Terry mentions Mike Johnson. Badger Den mentions Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, he's a great speaker. He's a great person, great individual, great leader, obviously. He had to sit behind Joe Biden and he had to listen to that whole speech. And there was so much of misinformation in that speech. And so Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson had to just sit and listen. So, I know a lot of people when they were watching that speech last night, they focused on Mike Johnson's face and his facial expression. At various points, Joe Biden was talking about stuff, and you could see Mike Johnson's expression. Terry Brait is here. Terry Brait, thank you for joining. It's good to see you're back. Terry writes this, it must have taken such willpower not to roll his eyes. Yeah, Mike Johnson is just like sitting there, and he had to. I don't know what to say exactly, but there were so many things that Joe Biden said that we disagreed with, right? Conservatives disagreed with a lot of things that Joe Biden said. And so at home, when we're watching, we can say things, we can, express, our feelings. But when you're sitting there right behind the president who's delivering the speech, when you're the Speaker of the House and you're sitting right behind the president, and the camera is on you, and Joe Biden is saying stuff that are not true, what do you do? You can't just stand up and say, Mr. President, what you're saying is not true. Mr. President, what you're saying is wrong. Mr. President, that's not true. Let me correct you. The Speaker of the House can't do that during the State of the Union address. So he just sat there and he had to just listen to the whole thing. And it's like, anyway, what can I say? But you saw that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she had the hat on, she had her clothing with messages, and she was obviously very, very she's always very outspoken and very vocal, and so there were points during the speech when Marjorie, the camera was on Marjorie Taylor Greene and you could see her expression. Anyway, Maya Sisters is here. Maya Sisters, thank you for joining. Good to see you're back. Let's see. Yeah, so Maya Sisters writes, Biden did not state what he would do to secure the border. Absolutely, he did not say anything. He did not provide a plan for securing the border because his administration kept the border open. I mean, that's what's been going on since day one. The border is wide open and people are coming and millions have entered the United States illegally. And a lot of damage has already been done. A lot of damage has already been done. As I keep talking about it on this channel, Teresa Ross is here. She's waving at me. Teresa, thank you for joining. It's so good to see you're back. It's good to see a lot of friends today. Terry is here. Badger Den is here. Laura Floyd is here. Maya Sisters is here. Terry Brait is here. Teresa Ross is here. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. It's so great to see that you're here. It's Friday night, but I appreciate you joining. So as I was saying, what was I saying? I guess I lost my train of thoughts. But anyway, it's like, oh yeah, I was talking about illegal immigration. So millions and millions of foreign nationals have entered the United States illegally. And this is the result of the Biden administration's open border policy. And so while I was waiting to hear more about this issue, and I was waiting to hear what Biden is going to do to fix this problem, but the fact that he didn't talk about fixing the illegal immigration issue, that tells me that he probably doesn't want to fix it. And that makes sense because his administration is the administration that created this problem. So we really can't expect Biden to solve this. And that's the sad part. And that's why I keep saying that we need new leadership in the White House. We need a new president. We need Donald Trump. So talking about Donald Trump, during Joe Biden's speech, on a number of times, Joe Biden referred to his predecessor. He said, my predecessor, my predecessor. And who is he referring to when he says my predecessor? He's talking about Donald Trump. Biden was referring to Donald Trump in his State of the Union address. And so what does that tell you? What does that tell you? I think Biden probably understands very well that he may lose the election. He may lose the election. I mean, the fact that Joe Biden referred to Donald Trump during his speech, it tells me that Biden's speech was more of a campaign-focused speech. It was a campaign-focused speech. And Joe Biden and his campaign are probably very worried because of the poll numbers. There are reports that show that Trump is leading, and Joe Biden's approval numbers are not good. And so Joe Biden is probably just probably afraid that he's going to lose this presidential election. And so while it was an official State of the Union address, he kind of, by referring to my predecessor, by referring to Donald Trump, he kind of turned the State of the Union address into a sort of a campaign speech. Okay? I mean, so many people tune in to watch the State of the Union address, right? Some people watch live, like I did last night. I had the TV on, I watched it live. And some people, they watch the replay. Others, they watch the highlights. And so people pay attention to the State of the Union address, either as the speech is being delivered or afterwards, the next day or the day after. The State of the Union address stays as the topic of discussion for days after the State of the Union address is delivered. And so I think Joe Biden and his advisors, whoever advised him on the speech, the speechwriters, his team, they basically, I think, it's my observation, they basically used this opportunity to turn the speech into some kind of a campaign speech. And that's why Biden was referring to my predecessor. I mean, this speech is about Joe Biden, his administration, the work that they have done, the work that they're going to do, their successes and failures. Well, they don't have much success. But, generically speaking, when a president delivers the State of the Union address, the president talks about the successes, the failures, and what to do going forward, the challenges, the opportunities, plans for the future. But when Joe Biden kept talking about my predecessor, referring to Donald Trump, it clearly showed that Joe Biden's worried about re-election. He is worried about re-election. He's worried that Trump may win the presidency. Trump may win the November 2024 general election. That's why Joe Biden used his State of the Union address to refer to Donald Trump. Terry writes, "Do we really think he wrote this or is right?" Terry, I don't know who wrote it. There are speech writers, there are advisors. I don't know how it's done, how the speech is done. Okay, I'm just a simple guy. I come on my YouTube channel and I share with people what's on my mind. I make notes of some points that I want to discuss, and then I just share with you what's on my mind. That's how I deliver my speeches. Okay. All right. And when I speak at different events, I write my own speeches. I deliver my own speeches. I answer questions that I get from people. So that's how I do it. I don't know how Joe Biden does it. I don't know if he has one speech writer or a group of speech writers. I don't know how it's done. But I can tell you there were many flaws in that speech. Just from listening to it, there were many flaws, incorrect information, and the fact that he started with Ukraine. I mean, this is State of the Union. The Union meaning the United States of America. Okay? It's not the state of Ukraine. This is State of the Union, our union, okay? Our country. Why did he start with Ukraine? And I would say the same thing if he talked about some other country, okay? It's not about Ukraine. It's about, don't start your State of the Union address by talking about a foreign country, okay? Don't, just whatever country, don't mention any foreign country at the beginning of your speech. You can, of course, foreign policy is very important. Our relationship with our allies and how we are going to counter the threats from our adversaries. I mean, these are all important things to talk about. But that's not where you start your speech. Start with the everyday issues, the kitchen table issues. Talk about rising prices and how that's going to be addressed. Talk about, inflation. Talk about supply chain issues. Talk about economic uncertainty. Talk about people's retirement. Talk about Social Security, Medicare. I mean, talk about these things. These are the important things. Talk about education. Talk about job opportunities for the younger generation. Talk about rising, home prices. Talk about rising rent and how these issues are going to be addressed. Talk about interest rates. I mean, these are the things that matter to Americans as we live and breathe in this country, as we work, as we pay taxes, as we come home, as we buy groceries. And these are the things that matter. And he started talking about Ukraine. Then he talked about my predecessor. I mean, it's really a campaign-focused speech. Let me pause for a second and look at the chat window here. Maya Sisters writes, any economists here? Well, Maya Sisters, I studied economics in college and even before college. I studied economics. I took economics courses in my graduate school also. So I pay attention to economic issues. Yeah, I mean, Federal Reserve. Maya Sisters is writing about Federal Reserve. That's an important topic to discuss, the Federal Reserve. And then, okay. I'm trying to keep up with the chat window and all the comments. Teresa Ross writes, maybe he forgot Trump's name. Well, he probably intentionally did not mention the name, so he just said my predecessor. Um, let's see. I'm just scrolling through the chat window here. Uh, Badgerden writes, yeah, Badgerden is also writing that, referring to the fact that Biden did not mention Trump's name. And Terry writes, I think it tried to bring back his uncommitted losses. Yeah, I mean, Biden lost lots of votes in the primary on Super Tuesday because so many people voted for uncommitted. Okay, so that's a huge issue going into the general election. Let's see. Okay, let me see some comments here. Mm, all right. Okay. So I'm reading all your comments. Sorry if I can't. Um, sorry if I cannot. Address each and every comment. But I'm reading all your comments here. Okay. Yeah. Maya Sisters is writing the economy is bolstered through welfare spend. Um, too much of government spending is what has fueled this inflation. Okay. When the government spends too much money, when there's too much money in the economy, that creates problems. Problems cannot be solved by printing more money, by pushing more money out in the economy. Okay. And that's something very basic that anyone who has studied basic economics would know. And so that's what's causing inflation. And we know that the Democrats, they like spending money, not just like spending money, at the federal government, but also we see that at the local level, and I've talked about it quite a bit. New York City taking taxpayer dollars and spending it on the migrants, Chicago doing the same thing, California doing the same thing. So when you put Democrats in charge of government, that's what they do. They like spending money. They're spending, spending, spending. Okay. All right, my friends. Terry writes, they like spending other people's money. Exactly. When we say government is spending money, the government, I mean, what's the government? The government doesn't have any money. Whatever money the government has, that's our money, us taxpayers. We pay taxes, we pay fees, and that's the money, that's the revenue that the government gets. And then if Democrats are in charge, they don't spend taxpayer dollars responsibly. They don't. They are irresponsible in how they handle taxpayer dollars. Once again, look at Chicago, look at New York. They are taking tax dollars, the Democrats, the Democrat leaders, the city council, the mayors, the folks at the county level. They are using tax dollars to fund migrant housing, migrant food, migrant healthcare, and that's irresponsible, right? So, my friends, let me just talk about something else. Um, let's talk about the possibility of a Trump Biden debate. Um, now that Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley, now that Nikki Haley, now that Nikki Haley has dropped out. Okay, finally, Nikki Haley has dropped out of the presidential race. Wonderful. So now that Nikki Haley has dropped out of the presidential race, and there really is no one running against Trump from the Republican side, it just means that Trump's path to the GOP nomination is clear. I mean, there will still be other primaries, right? I mean, on April 2nd, we're gonna have the Wisconsin primary here. Let me just check one thing. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna look at one thing. So we here in Wisconsin, we are looking at we are looking at our primary on April 2nd. And so there will still be primary elections, but we know that Donald Trump's pathway is clear. He's going to be the GOP nominee. So now let's jump into the discussion of a Trump Biden debate. I mean, that would be the event of the year. Okay? That would be the event of the year. A presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Now, I am personally hoping for a few debates, not just one debate. And if you ask me, I think there should be at least three presidential debates between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I mean, let me ask you, how many debates would you like to see? How many debates would you like to see? Would you like to see just one debate between Biden and Trump, or two, or three, or maybe like, I don't know, 5 debates? That would be a lot, right? I would love it. My friend Terry writes 3 debates. 3 debates. Okay, my friends. 3 debates, I think, would be great. I agree with Terry. And the debates should be long, okay? The debates should be long. And the top issues discussed during the debate should be the economy, and that means talk about inflation, talk about supply chain, talk about overall economic uncertainty, talk about gas price. So that's important. And then talk about crimes in communities across the country, and what each candidate's what Joe Biden thinks about rising crimes in many communities across the country, and what Donald Trump thinks about rising crimes in communities across the country, and their proposals their proposals to address these problems. So crime, public safety, that should be one important topic. Terry writes, each debate needs to be 2 hours long, 9 p.m., 9 to 11. Absolutely. I agree with you, Terry. At least 2 hours. 2 hours. I think 2 hours would be pretty good. Okay. And also, international affairs. That's an important topic. How do we strengthen our relationship with our international allies? Okay. How do we combat various threats at the international level? How do we keep America safe? And how do we deal with our adversaries in different parts of the world? How do we counter various threats? I mean, that should be important. And so I want to hear about economy. I want to hear about public safety issues. I want to hear about our involvement in international affairs. But most important, probably the most important topic during a presidential debate would be the issue of illegal immigration. Okay? This is both a domestic and an international issue. I mean, think about it. Any issue can be considered a domestic issue or an international issue, right? But this illegal immigration problem, this is both a domestic problem and an international problem. Why? Because people from all over the world are coming into the United States through the southern border. So it automatically becomes an international affair. People from all over the world, okay, from different continents around the world, are making their way into the United States through the southern border. So illegal immigration is definitely, an issue that's connected with, international affairs. But then, as soon as these illegal immigrants enter our country, it becomes a domestic issue, because then our local economy is being impacted by this influx of illegal immigrants. Our tax dollars are being spent on illegal immigrants' housing and food and medical services and other services, and so it becomes a domestic issue. So that's why I think the issue of illegal immigration is one that should be discussed first and foremost during any presidential debate. All right, my friends, I see a lot of comments here in the in the chat window. Um, I'm gonna read I'm gonna read these comments afterwards. So thanks for the comments. I appreciate people sharing their thoughts and their input and asking questions. Um, my friends, here's something very important that I need to discuss. Let's talk about the RNC, the Republican National Committee. Ronna McDaniel has stepped down. Ronna McDaniel has stepped down, and we know that the RNC now has new leadership. The RNC has new leadership, and guess who's part of the new leadership? Have you paid attention to the news that the RNC has new leadership now? The chairman of the RNC now is Michael Whatley. Okay, he is the new chair of the RNC. And I think it'll be important to see what he does, Mr. Whatley, as the new leader. And guess who is the co-chair of the RNC? Can you tell me who the co-chair is? Lara Trump is the co-chair of the RNC. Lara Trump is Donald Trump's daughter-in-law. And I think this is great news for Trump, great news for Trump, who I think is going to win the 2024 November election. And so Lara Trump is the new co-chair of the RNC, and I think it's great news for Republicans across the country. And it's great news for Donald Trump, okay? The RNC definitely needs new leadership, and now the RNC has new leaders. So going forward, I think Americans can expect to see great things happening at the RNC. I have complete confidence. I have complete confidence that the new leaders at the RNC will be able to steer the party in the right direction, and they'll be able to take the right decision and take the steps that are needed to ensure that Republicans win in November 2024. It's so important. And it's not just the presidential election. As I always keep saying, there are many important things that we need to pay attention to. We have to increase the size of the majority in the House of Representatives. We have to regain the majority in the US Senate. We have to win the White House. And so there are so many important things that we need to pay attention to. So, because remember, if we increase the size of the majority in the House, and Donald Trump also is elected president again, but let's say we don't regain majority in the Senate, then the things that the Republicans want to accomplish to make America great again, they will not be able to do that, because then the Democrats in the Senate, they will obstruct Republican-led bills. And similarly, let's say we gain the majority in the US Senate and Donald Trump is elected the president, but let's say we lose majority in the House, the same thing's going to happen. Okay? Because for any good piece of legislation, the House needs to approve it, the Senate needs to approve it, and the president needs to sign it into law. That's how the process works. I mean, you know how a bill becomes a law. And that's why I keep saying there are three things that we need to accomplish. Number one, increase the size of the majority in the House of Representatives, regain the majority in the Senate, and elect Donald Trump as the next president. Okay? Okay, so if we regain the majority, if we increase the size of the majority in the House, if we regain the majority in the Senate, I mean Republicans, and if the Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump, is elected president, then we can expect great things in 2025, my friends. Badgerton writes, the Republican Party is going MAGA. Absolutely, make America great again. Maya Sisters writes Trump has a good chance of winning the presidency. The House and Senate is a toss up. Well, Maya Sisters, I think I can't comment much on the about the House because there are hundreds of members there. I'm gonna have to look at some polls and studies. But let me tell you, I feel very optimistic about the Senate. Okay, let me tell you why. There are more than 20 Senate seats up for re-election. More than 20 Senate seats. I think the number is 23. I mean, seats that are controlled by Democrats and independents who caucus with the Democrats. Okay, so there are more than 20 seats currently held by Democrats or Democrat-leaning incumbent independents that are up for re-election. Okay, and so there's a good chance that Republicans will be able to capture a few of those seats. Okay, by winning elections. In Wisconsin, Senator Tammy Baldwin, the Democrat incumbent, is up for re-election, and there are a few candidates who are running in the Republican primary, and one of them, whoever wins the primary, eventually will go on and run in the general election against Tammy Baldwin. So there's a good chance that a Republican candidate chosen by the people of Wisconsin here can actually defeat Tammy Baldwin. That may happen. Okay, there's a strong possibility. And then look at West Virginia. Look at West Virginia. Joe Manchin, the incumbent Democrat, he's not running for re-election, and Jim Justice, the governor, the Republican governor. So Joe Manchin is the Democrat incumbent U.S. senator. He is not running for re-election, and so the Republican governor Jim Justice, he's running for Senate. Okay, in West Virginia, and West Virginia loves Trump, and there's a good chance that the people of West Virginia may elect Jim Justice as the next U.S. Senator. And if that happens, we gain a seat. So we may gain a seat in Wisconsin, we may gain a seat in West Virginia, and then Larry Hogan is running in Maryland. Now, Maryland is a blue state, but Larry Hogan is, served in Maryland as a Republican. So he served as a Republican governor in a blue state. And he's not exactly a Trump ally. Okay, so Trump and Larry Hogan are not best friends. But I think for the purposes of winning a Senate election in Maryland, I think someone like Larry Hogan can actually get the job done. I think he can win because he already served as a Republican governor in a blue state in Maryland. So he already has name recognition. He served in statewide office and he won election previously. And so there's a good opportunity, I think, in Maryland for Larry Hogan to win that Senate election and to become a Republican senator in a blue state. I mean, that can happen. So we may be able to win Wisconsin. I think we're going to win West Virginia. I'm hopeful. And in Maryland, there's a good chance that we may win Maryland. And also, let's not forget, Kari Lake is running in Arizona. So we may be able to win the Arizona seat. Is Teresa Ross still here, Teresa? Teresa, are you here? If I remember correctly, Teresa, you are in Arizona. Do you have any thoughts about the Senate race in Arizona, about Kari Lake? Teresa Ross, if you're still here, please share with me your thoughts, okay? I want to hear what your thoughts are for the Arizona Senate race. I hope Kari Lake wins. I hope Kari Lake wins, and then we'll be able to win another seat. So Wisconsin, we may win. West Virginia, we may win. Maryland, we may win. And Arizona, I'm hoping Arizona, Kari Lake wins Arizona. And so, we may be able to regain the majority in the Senate. So just answering the comment that addressing the comment that Maya Sisters had about the House and the Senate being a toss-up. Well, I'm not going to comment on House, but the Senate, we have a good chance of regaining the majority in the Senate. And if that happens, that's going to be very, very powerful. Okay. And let's not forget, uh, because Republicans had the majority in the Senate, that's why we were able to, confirm so many great justices: Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Gorsuch. These great justices, these great individuals were confirmed as justices on the U.S. Supreme Court because the Republicans um, had Senate majority, right? We and and so the Senate majority is extremely important. Is extremely important. Okay, we need to have majority in the U.S. Senate. And so, my friends, I'm hoping that we'll be able to regain the majority in the U.S. Senate, and I'm hoping that we will be able to increase the size of the majority in the House. Okay, I don't have any predictions on how many seats we may gain in the House, and whether we'll be able to gain more seats in the House. Right now, we have a very slim majority, and that ends up being a problem because if there are a few Republicans who don't agree with the majority of the Republicans in the House, then we see that bills may get delayed. Anyway, we need to strengthen our majority in the House. Okay, so I'm very hopeful that's going to happen, but no comments on the actual numbers or any kind of concrete predictions at this point. Okay, and so my friends, that's pretty much all I have for today. I let me read some comments here. Okay, the border needs to be secured. That's really number one. Maya Sisters is writing about um, the Republican response to the State of the Union speech. Alabama Senator Katie Britt, she had the Republican response. Um, Maya Sisters is writing it was a good speech in terms of delivery. Okay. And let's see. Terry writes, I did not see her speech. Because Badger Den's asking, did anyone see the speech Alabama Senator Katie Britt made after the address? Honestly, I did not have an opportunity to see the entire speech that Katie Britt delivered. It was just because I had a last night, um, right after the State of the Union speech, I was working on a few things. I didn't have a chance to watch Katie Britt's speech. Um, and today I had a busy day, so I couldn't watch. But I'm hoping that tomorrow at some point I'm going to watch the speech. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to be speaking at an event tomorrow. Okay, so here in Wisconsin, I have been invited to speak at a Republican event. It's called a Lincoln Day event. Okay, and it's organized by a county party, a Republican county party. So I'm going to be talking about immigration tomorrow at an event, and so I'm looking forward to that. I have about 15 minutes. That's the time slot I'm going to be speaking, and so I'm going to be um, I'm going to be presenting some important information on the border crisis, and I'm going to be sharing my views, my thoughts with the audience, with the people at the Lincoln Day event. And so obviously, as an immigrant, as a legal immigrant and a naturalized U.S. citizen, I like sharing my views on immigration issues. And I've mentioned this before, that I um, not only speak on this channel, um, but I do a lot of speeches in person at different events. And in fact, if you check out my YouTube channel, if you go back a few years, like check out some videos I posted maybe in 2017, 2018, you'll see that there are some speeches that I've delivered at different Republican events. Those video clips, those speeches are available, so you can check those out. And so I'm going to be speaking tomorrow, and it'll be I'm hoping that I'll be able to present um, my views on what we need to do to address this illegal immigration problem. Okay. And so afterwards, I hope to share with you about my experience tomorrow. And today it was raining all day. I mean, in Madison, it was raining all day today. Okay. Tomorrow, I'm hoping the weather's going to be a little bit better so that I can enjoy the drive. It's about an hour, 15 minutes, or, anywhere between an hour, 15 minutes to 1.5 hour drive from where I live. So I'm gonna spend some time in the car tomorrow, and that's why I'm hoping that the weather remains. I spend a lot of time in the car. Okay, I do drive around Wisconsin um, every week. Um, so tomorrow it's a Saturday. And I'm looking forward to speaking before this group. And I've spoken before this group before, and they are some of the most wonderful conservatives you're going to find in the state of Wisconsin. Okay. Some really great people. They're passionate um, about conservative causes, and they're freedom loving Americans, and they just want to make America great again. A lot of Trump supporters. So the event that I'm speaking at tomorrow, there will be lots of Trump supporters. So I'm looking forward to it. And as I always keep saying, my friends, it's very simple. I mean, we welcome immigrants, okay? Legal immigrants, people who follow the law, who enter the United States legally. We welcome them. And what I always say is that there cannot be two pathways to enter the United States. Right now, there are two pathways to enter America. One is legal, one is illegal. And that is unfortunate. That should not be happening. There should be only one pathway to enter the United States, and that is the legal pathway, okay? Whether you are coming to the United States on a short-term visit as a tourist, get a visa. Whether you're coming for a job, get the appropriate visa. Whether you're coming as a student to study, get the visa. If you're coming to live and work here, there's a process to get an immigrant visa. And so people who come here by following our nation's laws, we welcome them, okay? We welcome tourists, we welcome immigrants, but everything has to be done through the legal process. But what we have witnessed for the last few years is influx of millions and millions of illegal immigrants, people who violated our nation's immigration laws, and they came into the United States. And not only did they violate our immigration laws, after coming here, they're expecting free stuff. They're expecting free housing, free food, free medical services. I mean, I've talked about this before. There are hospitals where the emergency rooms are full of illegal immigrants, because the illegal immigrants, that's the way that they access care. They show up at the hospital emergency room and they expect treatment. And what ends up happening is that people with genuine emergencies, they go and they have to wait. They have to wait in line. American citizens are suffering. American citizens are having difficulty accessing emergency care because the illegal immigrants are utilizing the emergency room services, okay, for things that are not genuine emergencies. So, I mean, it is extremely sad. It is extremely sad what's happening in our country right now. And that's why, my friends, what I'm going to continue doing is, whether it's through my YouTube channel or whether it's through a speech that I deliver in person at an event, I'm going to be talking about these issues. I'm going to be highlighting the problems that we are facing as Americans. I'm going to be talking about the issues and raising awareness. And we need to stop the influx of illegal immigrants, and we need to secure the border. That's the message, and that's something I keep repeating all the time. We need to secure the southern border, and stop the influx of illegal immigrants. And also, I'm gonna mention one thing, and I've written about this previously. There's another problem that is not discussed as much, but previously I've written about it, I've talked about it, and I'm going to be doing a live stream on that issue, and that's the problem of visa overstay. Okay, a lot of foreign nationals, they get visas and they enter the United States, whether it's a visa to be here for 15 days or a month or 6 months. There are people who enter the United States on a visa, but then they don't leave when their visa expires. Okay, that is a huge problem. Okay, so individuals who enter the United States legally, let's say a tourist, okay, a foreign national who wants to visit the US for tourism, gets a visa, comes here as a tourist. For example, let's say that the visa is for a month, okay, for 30 days. If 30 days goes by, if 30 days go by and the person doesn't leave the country, that's a problem. And so their visa overstay is a huge problem. So this refers to foreign nationals who are coming into the United States properly, but then they stay back, they don't leave. So that's visa overstay. That also is a huge issue that we need to talk about, we need to address. So I'm going to be talking about that hopefully in the future. I have written some things about it. I think I have two blog posts, at least one, but most likely two blog posts on my website, tausifanam.net, on this issue of visa overstay. So if you go to my website, tausifanam.net, and in the search bar you type visa overstay, I think you'll be able to find my blog posts on that issue. And I think I also have published a video years ago on this issue. Not a very detailed video, but I'm going to be making more detailed videos on visa overstay because that's a problem that we cannot overlook. We have to address the issue of visa overstay. So lots of problems, my friends, that we need to address. And that's why I keep saying we need a new leader in the White House. We need a strong president. We need a conservative president. We need a Republican president. We need Donald Trump back in the Oval Office, my friends. Okay. So as we look at November 2024, let's focus on getting our Republican candidates elected or reelected. Let's regain the majority in the Senate. Let's increase the size of the majority in the House. Let's win the presidential election, and let's help Donald Trump get back into the Oval Office so that he can make America great again. We must elect Donald Trump in November 2024 if we want to make America great again. My friends, thank you so very much for staying connected with me and for continuing to listen to my podcast, for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank everyone who joined today and everyone who participated in the chat window. Terry, my friend Terry Dunlap, Badger Den, Terry Braid, Maya Sisters, Teresa Ross, and let's see who else joined. Laura Floyd. So I appreciate your participation. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much once again for watching. Terry writes, good night, everyone. Good night, Terry. Good night, my friends. Thank you once again for joining on this Friday night. I appreciate your time. Over the weekend, I'll try to bring in front of you more information, more news updates, and more commentary. So thank you so much. And Terry writes, good night, Nikki, wherever you are. Good night, Nikki Haley. Thank you for making the right decision, although it's a little late. Okay. She should have dropped out before the South Carolina primary, but that's okay. She finally made the wise decision of dropping out of the presidential race. But I was hoping that she would endorse Donald Trump. She did not. That's okay. Trump has lots of endorsement. So that's okay. So good night to Nikki Haley as well. And I really wish Nikki Haley well for the future. Okay. I wish she would have made an endorsement. I wish she would have endorsed Trump. There's still time. She can still do it tomorrow or the day after. There's still time. I hope she endorses Trump. That will be the right thing to do. But anyway, let's wish Nikki Haley well, okay? And let's focus on electing Donald Trump in November 2024. My friends, with that, thank you so much for joining once again. Have a wonderful night, and I'll be back in front of you with more videos and more live stream. Have a good night.